Welcome to Daddy Square. Alex, we made it.
We made it to what?
To the season finale.
Oh,
yay.
Like Game of Thrones, we're gonna stretch it out for like 3 years after this till the next one so that you'll all be desperate for another episode. We won't do that.
No, definitely not. We'll be returning in next spring. But throughout the season, we've been, complaining about how hard parenting is. Yes.
Yes. Yeah, I think
that's basically what we did, and also we talked about issues that may arise for gay dads, and we hosted gay dads.
That's true.
That's
what we've done. I think that we've complained. I feel that I've complained very eloquently about parenting, and we
definitely know how to complain.
We're
it's
really,
in our system.
We're really good at it. We're good at it, and we welcome complaints from other gay parents who can write us at
hello@daddysqr.com. Hi, Alex. Good morning.
Good morning.
I've been sleeping very poorly lately. So this episode is a little different. We have two guests with us. Alex, do you want to explain the season finale topic?
Sure. There are so many things that happen when you decide to become a parent, and then when you become a parent, so many huge changes that happen in your life as a parent. But one of the things that isn't always obvious to people before they get into this is the effect that it can have on your social life in general. That's kind of the fuzzy way of looking at it, but much more importantly, on the personal life that you have with people who are very, very close friends of yours, especially people who are close friends of yours who themselves don't have children. It's a radical shift. Oh, and are gay.
Yeah.
It is a that's right. We're outing the two people who we're going to be interviewing today. Turns out they're gay. Anyway, but the point is that it is a radical shift in your own life. It's a radical shift in their lives too. And we thought it would be really valuable to try to talk about this with them, with our close friends, and with people who have close friends who've been interviewed on this show before, to get a feel from them about what the impact is on the relationship that they have with gay dads.
Yeah, apparently it's also been the issue that people were most concerned about when they wrote us emails. Like most of the
you mean prospective parents?
Parents, yes, prospective dads have been written us throughout the season asking about what's going to happen and how can we preserve our friendship with our gay friends.
I just want to say, like, for me, going into this, I knew, because everyone talks about it, what the impact was going to be on, as I said before, my social life, that kind of big fuzzy concept of, going out and having the freedom to do things, etc. I understood that, at least conceptually, but I don't think I really thought about the effect that it was going to have on my direct and specific relationship with Scott, who we will be interviewing for a minute, and on other very close friends of mine, because I guess I said, well, no, but it's Scott. Nothing can change that relationship, but it can. And that's what we're here for today.
So we brought two guests today. We have Dwayne here in the studio, who was referred to us by a couple you have met on the show. Tommy from episode 3, the dead bod episode. Did I say it correctly?
Stop saying it like dead bod. It's not dead.
They're
not
dead bod.
Dad.
The Israeli accent.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. And Richard, the lawyer from last week that we talked to. Dwayne is their best friend. And we also have our closest friend Scott, who's known Alex forever.
I want to say 17 years. Yeah.
And has watched us being thrown into the cold, freezing water of poop. Remember that?
The freezing cold water of poop?
Yeah.
Wow.
In the past 3 years.
That's beautiful. Yeah.
Before we start, I want to add that Alex and I have created a gift for all of you who are listening to us. It's a mini magazine with some quotes, links, and material that you can download for free. Just go to the website at daddysqr.com and download it for free. It's fun and it's cute and it's valuable, I think. Now we can start. Hello, Dwayne and Scott.
Hello. Hey guys, how are you?
Tell us a little bit about yourself, like who you are and how did your friendship with a couple start? Dwayne, you can start.
I'll start. My name is Dwayne Landry. I have lived in LA off and on for about 24, 25 years. And over the years, just through mutual friends or parties or anything like that, met Tommy. I believe I met Tommy first, probably like 15, 16 years ago. And then met Rich, not too long afterward. And, children, no children, we've always been, great friends. So
you met them before the children?
Oh, I met them before they met each other.
Oh.
Yeah, I knew them independently.
So you've experienced two pretty significant changes from the time that you first met.
Yeah.
That's cool. Okay. And so how many years did you know them before they had kids?
I had the benefit of actually living with them before they had the kids.
Oh, wow.
Just before I was living with them when they were planning, the whole process. So I would say probably the boys are 7, 8 years at least before the kid.
That experience sounds like a whole different episode.
Yeah, it is. It is. Late night ice cream, in the kitchen. Right. So what
sounds a little bit golden girls if you say it as ice cream, but we think that it was probably something else. It's a different podcast.
And Scott?
Yes, I'm Scott. I am Alex's best friend, and we've known each other, I think we just said 17 years. So he was actually my neighbor. We met through a mutual friend, Merrick.
Oh, yeah. Hi, Merrick.
Hi, Merrick. Hey, Joel. And that's Merrick's phrase. But yeah, and then it really helped that we were next door neighbors, I think was what really started it all. But then I knew him before Yanir, in fact, long before Yanir.
That's right. Oh, that's right. This is another situation where you come before two major changes in my life.
I protested him so many times, and yet you still married him.
There was nothing we could do.
I was like, put him on the boat. No, just kidding.
Why do you think your friendship passes the test of time?
I think for me, it sort of started with Tommy. Tommy and I are both from the South. He's from Texas. I'm from Louisiana. We have a very similar kind of like sassy, dry humor. And then when he and Rich got together, there's a lot about Rich that I also identify with. We have great conversation. We have a really good time together, and just the three of us, especially when we live together, we just had a really good time. We're just really fun guys, very smart, really friendly, outgoing, caring. I come from a really big family back home, so when I came to LA, I tried to recreate that, and they were very much a part of that.
So they had kids. What did they have? They had
twins, Alex.
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry. I forget things. And that was how many years ago?
That was 10 years ago. Yeah, it was Austin and Aiden.
So what's happened to your relationship with them since then? How has it changed?
It's gotten tighter. It's gotten better. It's gotten more valuable. It's gotten more intimate. One of the things that I know they both were concerned about is exactly what you guys were talking about at the beginning. What is this going to do to my friends? What is this going to do to, my weekends? How, when am I going to see people? Who's going to reach out? Who's going to still be around?
Right.
And it's not that people care less. It's just that once you do go off in that family lane, single guys kind of stay in the single lane, and they do diverge.
Right.
And I think for me, it's like I'll try not to get.
Oh, please get emotional. Let me just make something clear. One of my goals in every episode is to make somebody else or myself cry. So, go.
I genuinely love the guys, and so when they were talking about having a family, I was sincerely happy for them, and I knew I'd be a part of it. I just knew.
But so, if I can ask, do you want to have children?
I did at one point, but I think that door may have closed.
Okay.
For me. I never wanted to do it as a single man, because I know the challenge. I'm familiar with what that challenge would be like. So I always wanted to do it with a partner, and that hasn't been the way my life's unfolded yet.
So because I have to say, one of the things that I took from what you just said that I thought was really interesting was you talked about it a lot from the perspective of the couple who had the kids, and not at all from your own perspective. You talked about the concern that they have about whether or not friends would remain their friends and remain in their lives, but you didn't say whether they were going to remain in your life. And what I wonder is, did you did you ever fear the idea that as parents with kids, they would stop having enough time for you?
Absolutely not.
Never.
It never crossed my mind that. I mean, there are occasions where I wish they could come to something, or they wish I could come to something. But I was never afraid that I wasn't going to see them again, or that they weren't going to make time for me.
Right.
So that's my perspective.
Got it.
Yeah.
Hey, Scott.
Hey.
I'm gonna go out on a limb and say that things might be a little bit different between us.
I think you're right.
Tell us a
Actually,
little bit
it's
about
interesting hearing you say that, Dwayne. My concern, I think you touched on something that is the first sacrifice of the friend is realizing you've got to change some for them, for the couple.
Right.
Like, Alex knows that I don't see myself having kids. It's not really ever been something that I wanted. And I think part of that, too, is because I've also not been in that long relationship that I thought was loving enough and strong enough that I would want to support children in it. So that could change, but again, that, I'm getting older, and so the window of time's kind of collapsing there. But my concern wasn't so much for me, it was that I knew how much your lives would change, especially because you were going for 2 kids.
Yeah.
And I think even more than you did. You and I used to actually talk about this.
I had no idea what I was doing.
You're like, it's fine. I'm still going to go to the gym. We're still going to get together. We're still going to do our dinners and our movies and all this. Don't worry about it, Scott. I've got it covered.
Delusional.
I was a little bit delusional. Yeah.
And I was like, really? Do you really think? And he's like, it's fine. Fast forward to 2 or 3 months after the kids, he's like, I don't know what I was talking about. I'm crazy. So, yeah.
Yeah, there was something in that. Look, I have to say that you and I, one of the things that I think is a real blessing in our relationship is that you and I have been very open long before the kids came. When one of us thought that the other was not doing it right in the relationship, and we've had those talks since the kids came as well. That's been really meaningful and important to me. But the thing is that our relationship has, I'm speaking for myself here, our relationship may not have changed in our hearts, but it has changed in our time. Yeah. I mean, we don't spend as much time together. When we do spend time together, it's weird because I'm almost always nearly at the door of collapse, anyway. But, it's a shorter time, or it's, hey, come play with me and the kids, which can be lovely, but it's different. It's a radically different, kind of relationship. And I'll say that when I think about my gay life, I never had the kind of, I never did party drugs and all that kind of stuff, but when I think about my gay life, I think very much about you and the trips we used to take and the things we used to do together, and the image that I have of what has happened to my gay life always involves an image of you, and there's so much less of it than there used to be, and it is one of the real losses for me. Most of the rest of the stuff that I don't have anymore, I'm like, whatever. But when I think about, the fun and the lightness of the relationship that I had with you all those years, that's something that hurts. That one hurts.
Dwayne, Rich's and Tommy's kids are much older, so you have much more perspective to look back and maybe tell us, do you see like ups and downs in the relationships, like times where they were less available or more available?
Well, there was, like I said, there was a unique opportunity, like right when they were planning to have the boys, where I lived with them, and that was great. We were really tight, and we were going through.
So you were probably involved with every step.
Yeah, I mean, I was there when when we're looking at, when they're talking about topics of egg donor Y, surrogate B, those sorts of things. But then right after the boys were born, I ended up getting a job in New York and moved to New York for a few years. But that didn't stop. They ended up coming to New York. I came back. We stayed in contact. And I don't know if it was ever said or if it was just a feeling that we always had between each other. But all through these years, if there was at any point I needed either time, attention, assistance, or if they needed the same, it was an open door, like almost literally an open door, So there's never a concern. We're like I said earlier, are there times where I wish they could show up? Of course.
Let me ask you something. So before the kids came, keeping in mind that this is a family-friendly podcast, what are the gayest things that you would do with them as friends? The gayest things. I mean, I'm sorry to be stereotypical. No, I'm not. I kind of like it.
I don't think it'd be stepping the boundaries or divulging, anything I shouldn't by saying, we'd go to dance parties.
Mm-hmm.
We went on at least one or two Atlantis cruises.
Mm-hmm.
We would take road trips up to Mammoth, to go skiing for Gay Ski Weekend.
Okay.
We would throw stupid, silly, fun, really gay parties at the house.
Yeah.
Okay,
so
I'm available for such activities.
So since the kids were born, did it drop off of a cliff? Those things, the things you listed.
First, yeah. We've got the benefit of the boys now being, 10 years old. And, their sleepovers and their camps and, things that they can do to occupy their, time and contribute to their growth. But it frees Papa and it frees Daddy to go be a little gay and, let off some steam or be a lot gay.
Right. A lot of steam.
So yeah, I think in the beginning there's that. I think you were talking about it like, oh my God, what did I do? And then you get it, you understand it, you move on, you start to figure it all into your system, into your life, and you start slotting people at events and things, and then you hit a rhythm.
Right.
I think they've hit a really good rhythm.
So Scott.
Yes.
See how many notes does he have?
He has a lot. Scott brought notes, and I'm perfectly happy to just let you read them off. But I did want to ask you. So I'm interested to understand your perspective of how you see me as your friend, and how your perception of me as your friend has changed since 3 years ago when the kids came.
Well, I think it actually goes back further than that, because I think what's kept us strong friends and what we've learned over these years, these 17 years, is that we've actually been through so many things together, between personal life issues and work drama and, issues like 9/11, whatever, things that happened. You moved to Israel for a few years, and I remember that was a big deal, because I'm like, all of a sudden my best friend is gone. Right. And so I think going into this, I knew that was going to change, and it did. It changed dramatically. I mean, I went from seeing you several hours a week to maybe 1 hour a month.
Right.
A lot of times.
Yeah.
Which I don't like. I would say the biggest challenge for me has been, there's two things. One, it's made me rethink how I think about our friendship, because it's easy for me to say you don't have time for me and for me to be upset, but the intellectual side of me says, of course you don't have time. You're great parents. I mean, I watch you guys and you're wonderful parents, and so I'm thrilled about that. And that's a sacrifice that I kind of have to make, is that pushes me out a little. Now, on the flip side, the part that I think is not great is that there's times when I need you that you are not there, and probably vice versa. But there has been some very specific times where I felt like you failed me, and he wanted me to be very upfront and honest.
Yes.
So that's why I'm saying it. And the fact that long ago you and I talked about we would be brothers. Like, we got past the point of saying, we're going to fight one day and just not be in each other's lives. Like, we realized years ago that we would just be family.
Yeah.
So that's the thing that kind of keeps me going, is that I know that ultimately your heart is pure and honest, and it's not that you don't want these things or you don't want to hang out with me or whatever, and vice versa. Like, I think too that if I was in a kind of long-term committed relationship, us being together may be easier, but being single and like I'm trying to date and get to know people, and then you're trying to take care of kids, and those schedules don't match up well.
Yeah, the schedules don't match up well, and I think that what's also true is that it's funny. I try, and I think I succeed in this area, to maintain real perspective of what it's like to spend time with me. And in addition to being tired, I have people who say, well, why can't your friend come and spend, hang out with you and the kids for the day? And I'm like, because why? Because I would say here and there I would like more of that to happen, but there's a limit to how much I would ever expect you to hang out with me and my kids, because it's traumatic.
And some of it's even logistics. I mean, your kids usually go to bed at 7 or 8.
Yes.
I work until 5 or 6. I live on the other side of the hill.
Right.
I could get there just in time for them to be going to bed, which is then usually when you go to bed. So
very true. Yeah. Well, look, I do want to say this. In our 17 year, too close? Not the friendship, the microphone. Sorry. In our 17 years, as you said, there have been a lot of things that have happened in both of our lives. And, I remember that I went through a relationship with somebody that was, I would say damaging is a good term for it, damaging to me, and it was a very difficult relationship.
Not me.
Well, that was devastating. I'm just saying damaging. And I sort of have this, I imagine this thing going through your head at that time where you said, yeah, this is going to suck for a while, but he'll be back in my life again in a way that is, that is something that I'll love and need, and that you sort of took a deep breath and said, let's give it some time,
Right.
And I think I've done that once or twice in my side for you. This is a much bigger thing, but maybe an example of the same thing. And I think that it's interesting that you have a you're much later in the process of older kids, so I think that it's interesting to see the way these two relationships have unfolded.
Dwayne, do you relate to what Scott said about the route to dating versus the route of kids?
As far as my route to dating kids, I identified with. I mean, I've had a few sort of almost long-term, but ultimately unsuccessful relationships that did not end in children. But it was never like I have certain friends where it was a driver. Like I want to have children. I want to have a partner. For me, it was always okay. If it happens, it happens. If not, whatever. And I have some friends who are hell bent on doing it alone. If that's the case. But I've always been out of the way. But I do want to go back to something you said earlier about these guys and it sort of being a sort of like family. Mm-hmm. That's how it is. I don't want to be cliche, but that's how it is with Tommy and Rich. I mean, they very are much family, because there have been times where I have felt let down by them, either because they weren't there or because I would like for them to sense that yes, he needs me right now, and I know that I've probably done the same with them with not being present or something like that. But for me, it's the gratitude and the forgiveness and the allowance that you give family, right, and that comes into play,
right.
And I think it's crucial, particularly in the early years when they still are trying to figure it out. Because you're trying to figure it out too, and right. I don't always do the same thing. I mean, I gave the boys their first guns without permission. They were toy guns.
Well, you're from Texas, so I'm surprised. That they were toy guns.
I'm from Louisiana. Tommy's from Texas.
Potato.
But I gave
guns.
I gave them the first dresses, and the guys were fine with it.
That's true. And the boa.
Do you see? But your dating life.
Yes.
Do you feel like comfortable talking to them about that when you see that they're all over their heads with kids and stuff like that?
Yeah, because I was saying I'm still trying to get into that relationship.
Right, yeah.
You're dealing with building your family, which are two kind of different. They pull you in different directions.
Yeah, I think with those guys, we have a very open line of communication, so they know exactly where I am with my relationships, and I went through a hellacious breakup last year that was nowhere near having a children, probably because he was a child. Well, I'm sorry, not probably.
Not that doesn't happen, but yeah.
So they're very in sync with where I am, and I'm very in sync with where they are. and it usually doesn't take more than like a 2-minute conversation to recalibrate after I've not talked to them for a bit.
Right.
You know?
I have to say I'm amazed when I see, and I have seen this, people who have kids, gays who have kids, and you say, my God, you've really forgotten. Like I will say, and Scott, you correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think I've forgotten that dating is incredibly hard and complicated, and that there's a lot of pain when it doesn't go right, etc. But boy,
and disappointment.
But I know some gay parents where they act as if, oh, that's nothing now. You wait till you have children,
Right,
and I'm
right.
like, wow, what a tremendous loss of perspective.
Just really poo-poo
that
it,
is.
Yeah, no, I don't think that's you guys at all. In fact, I think because you're so welcome to hear something that is not about your kids, that you're
Exactly,
even more
yes.
like, tell us what it was like. Start at the beginning, go through the end.
When I tell Tommy and Rich I've
Yeah.
met someone, they're like, photos.
Yeah.
Right.
Pictures.
Is there video? Yeah.
Because I'll be like, how are the kids? They're like, move on. How was your day?
Yeah. They're alive. Good.
I'm very
Moving.
glad to hear that. That's great.
They've had a bath. Move on.
Oh.
And so did we. So, yeah.
What do you think is the difference between a straight guy with a straight married friends and yours?
I think this goes back to one thing that always strikes me is that, you know, as gay men, we move to these big cities and we do create these families. I can't speak for straight men.
When you mean create these families, you mean
These groups of gay men, that we
right.
surround ourselves with, they become surrogate families to us.
Yes.
And it's where we find our safety, our security, and our sex. Sorry.
Oh my God, sex. Let's change the nature of the podcast immediately.
And I don't know that the same thing happens in the straight community, you know. So I think for gay men who start having children, they kind of take themselves out of the safety of the pack, you know, and they start having you know to go at it alone with their partner. I don't know if it's the same in the straight community. I don't think they look at their friends in that way. I don't think there's that same sense of solidarity and inclusion. I don't know. I could be wrong. I'm not a straight man, so I'm speaking from my perspective and what I see in my community and my friends. So
I'd agree with that, and I would say that the friends I have that are gay with children and the friends I have that are straight with children, I really don't see a difference either in how I interact with them. It's not
right.
You just become parents. It doesn't matter what your orientation is to begin with. They're just as invested and busy with their kids as you are, and they try to find time to, you know, sneak away and do stuff just like you guys do. It hasn't been a big difference to me.
I mean, I guess one question would be the nature of the relationship that you had with that straight couple or the individual before they had kids was probably different than the
Correct.
nature of the relationship you had with me or another gay man. So the question is, does the gayness go away when the kids come?
Absolutely not.
I don't think so.
No.
Okay.
No.
Well, that's good because I'm holding on tight to the gayness.
Yeah, me too. Dwayne, since you watched them grow up, what year was the most annoying to you?
What year was the most annoying? Oh my
That's
God.
a good question.
I don't know if it's the most annoying, but I think the one that was most enlightening is when they started showing what their personalities were and who they were. Because it was really interesting to see one take on the characteristics and dynamics of one parent and the other take on the dynamics of the other parent. And to see that play out in a relationship and then see the same dynamics play out in a brother relationship. It was really interesting because they fight and bicker about the exact same things, just but as you know, Tommy and Rich as a partnership, and then the boys as brothers.
And what year was that? What year of their lives?
I would say, well, I think typical for any children, it's like 5 or 6 is when they start expressing themselves, they start asserting themselves. So it was really interesting to see. You're like, oh wait a minute, they're fighting about the exact same things, and Tommy and Rich are like, where did they get that from?
Your children are advanced at 3 and are doing that already.
Yeah, they're expressing themselves all right.
Yeah. But
Actually, for me, this is the more exciting time actually for me to get to know your children, because I feel like they're becoming little people. And that's, as they were younger and toddlers and infants and stuff, it was just kind of like, hi, and they just kind of look at you and they don't know what's going on. And now you can actually they
talk
know
to
us, and they, you know, so it's a little more interesting.
I think for us, for me, you know, the first year of their lives was far and away the hardest. More because of the shock to my life than anything else.
Right.
You know, I had no idea what I was getting into, and it really, you know, threw me off in a pretty serious way. So I guess my question, Scott, for you would be: Have you found me more accessible over time, or has it been pretty much the same or worse?
I would say as of now, it's been about the same. But I think that your attitude is different, because the first year we talked, it was much more kind of like, here's my shoulder, you need to cry on it. Like,
Oh yeah.
you know, I knew it was hard for you. I could tell that it was challenging.
Right.
It was something new that you're adapting to. Now it's just that you're busy the same way you were, but you're happier with it. So
Right.
it's, our conversations are different just because it's different for you.
But what year was the most annoying?
Yeah, that's right. You didn't answer the question.
What
Because
year
you know
was
what?
I guess it was.
I just at the first year, I thought that I was apologetic to my non-parent friends, because I felt like, oh my God, it's so horrible to me. Imagine what it's like for people who these kids are not theirs.
Right. I think for me it made it easier because I moved away to New York for the first few years. So those are probably would have been the most annoying because they would have been the most chaotic. When I moved back, you know, they were, you know, almost 5, I believe. You know, so then we, you know, we moved into a situation where I could start playing with them, I could start hanging out with them, taking to the park, you know, and it's only their availability. You're talking about, you know, the parent availability has only grown since then. I mean, because now I do activities with the boys. Like a couple months ago, we all went to a football game together.
That's
you know,
some kind of a sporting thing.
yeah, allegedly.
Okay,
it's
please
yeah,
continue.
Yeah. But you know, we have similar interests, you know, so we go out and do things, you know. So like I said earlier, if I ever need one-on-one with either of them, I just raise my hand. You know, there's things I can hang out and do with Tommy. There's things I can hang out and do with Rich if I want. Are there things that we can all do together? I've seen so many movies with the boys and just hanging out at home. You know, now it's gotten to the point where they just ignore me. You know, because they've got their video game craft something.
Minecraft.
House of Craft. I don't know.
Kraft macaroni and cheese. Whatever.
So now I go over and I get to play with the boys, but they get a little distracted with their friends, so it's Daddy and Papa and Dwayne time, you know.
Right.
So,
What do you think? It's a question for both of you. What do you think for prospective dads who are now listening to us and worried about their friendships? What can they do in order to maintain their friendships after the kids are born, or before, if there's something they can do before?
Identify those you think will stay around. Communicate with them that, you know, you may need their patience, but that you're not going very far, and that at one point or another you're going to need their help.
Scott?
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with that. I think it's just a matter of, for both people, both the parent and the friend, you have to make a bigger effort to carve out time.
Right.
And you have to be prepared for that, you know, and whatever that may be. And like I said, with your kids getting a little older, I feel like now, like, if I am at your house, the chances of us having like more conversation is a little easier because they're consumed with the television and Pixar and you know, or Warner Brothers
or a Warner Brothers property.
Yes,
Thanks,
or Spider-Man, which we don't know where that falls.
Thankfully, there's editing.
Do you find yourself now some sort of experts in parenting because you've watched your friends parenting and now you can advise other friends who think about that?
I think I had the potential to be an expert earlier before them because, like I said, I came from a large family. I literally have hundreds of cousins, so I was always around like young children or you know, young cousins. But raising children today in Los Angeles, I mean, that's a different beast. So yeah, I do feel informed. Do I feel motivated to go out and procreate? That's a different story.
Yeah, it might actually push you in the opposite direction. Scott, what? I'm not going to ask it the same way that Jan just did, but I want to know this. What would you tell, or what are you telling gay friends who are thinking about having kids based on your experience with us?
Good question.
And there's no lying allowed on this podcast. No, seriously.
I mean, I would just tell them it's all consuming.
Right.
Your whole life will be about your kids, at least for a while, and it will dramatically change the way you approach everything.
Right.
From going to the grocery store to the gym to watching TV, which you no longer do.
I watch
me
the
who
opening
celebrates
credits.
TV as a job. Like,
Yeah.
and every time I go to you, did you see this? And you're like, we don't watch TV. What are you talking about?
Yes,
So,
that's true.
Yeah.
Okay.
I started watching some television now. It's starting.
Don't lie on.
That's right. There's no lying on the podcast.
If someone would ask me this, like if I have a couple who's thinking about having a family, I've actually referred some of them to my other friends to say, hey, this is what I've noticed, this is what I've seen, but let me put you in touch with so and so. They've done it this way, and they are at this level. So what I do is I try to play sort of matchmaker with my friends and hook them up so they can get input from people who are actually parents. I don't discourage or encourage. I have discouraged once. They did not have any business having children.
It's funny you should mention, because I think that people are generally terrified of taking that step, and I don't think they should be so terrified of it. I think that if you feel like somebody really ain't the right kind of person to have a kid, I mean, we're going to get some good email from this statement.
Oh, I'm sure.
I think that you should up and say it. I mean, you could be wrong and they could not listen to you. That's fine, but I don't think there's anything wrong with people getting... There seems to be this kind of common, especially with gays, this common thing that says, oh, they want to have kids? Oh, it's amazing. Go have kids now. Oh, yeah. And I think that there are people for whom it's going to work and people for whom it's not.
Yeah, your role as a friend and a confidant doesn't end just because they want to do something as large as having a family, and your conversation can start just as easy as, so what are you expecting it to be? What do you think that looks like, and what do you think you need to do to prepare for that?
Yeah. I watched Downton Abbey as the way of knowing what parenting was going to be like. 6 or 7 maids 24 hours a day, and occasionally you see the children.
I watch the Kardashians. Similar.
Oh my God!
Actually,
you guys watch a lot of TV.
Educational television.
Actually, for me, what's interesting is because more than any other time in my life, now I've met guys, whether it's first date, 5th, or 20th, who are like, I want kids. Let's talk about if we want to have kids. And for me, I'm like, you're really jumping the gun, because, again, I don't think kids are just the starting point. You have to have that strong relationship first. You have to build all that to know that you want to have kids together. And so many people come into it now who are like, I want kids.
It's funny. In I think the last episode, we talked about the fact that there has been such a radical change in gay men's lives that have turned them into old-fashioned conservatives from like the late 1800s. And what I mean by that is partly because we start later in life in a lot of things, you start saying, well, will this marriage be good financial, thing? And are you looking to have children? And, all of this kind of stuff that seems very old-fashioned even in the straight world. But I think part of the reason why is if you're 40-something years old and you're dating and you've really wanted to have children, one of the things you might be saying to yourself is, even if this guy is amazing, do I want to get involved with him if in the end he's going to go to having children? Because, my biological clock is ticking. And it's just a weird, amazing transition in the gay world that, like, we've all turned into these, old-fashioned people.
Yeah, I think it's important in the historical context. I mean, gay parents now don't have a lot of modeling to look up to, because it hasn't been done a lot. I mean, this is the gay marriage, gay families. A lot of this is new. That's why there aren't a lot of books out there on gay parenting. I don't think there are. Just because this is new and uncharted territory in most places. So I think that's why guys like yourselves and Tommy and Rich, they're figuring out and doing it the best they can in ways that suit them and support their family and friends.
And you know what? To that end, I want to add. I am so thrilled that my kids are, have Scott and other people in their lives who are gay and out and comfortable. Not because they may be gay, although they may be, because it just makes for so much richer life for them to see people who are, happy with who they are and comfortable with who they are. And also because gay people are more fun than straight people.
As a rule.
It's just a rule. And I just, I think that our house is very blessed by the gay stuff. We have boas in our house. What are you going to do
wigs.
about it? Boas, wigs, gay people.
I have a question about. So you mentioned that you're coming from a large family, Dwayne.
Yes.
So do you think it has an effect on the way that you accepted the fact that accepted the family and got into the family relative to maybe other friends of them?
Oh yeah,
that
yes.
they were not as much into it as you.
Yeah, my mom was one of 16 children, and my dad.
Whoa!
And my dad was one of 11.
Oh my God.
So everybody had babies. So if two people are in love, gay, straight, whatever, and they want to have babies, I'm like, yep, that's what you do. Mm-hmm. You get together and you have babies. So that just seemed like a natural progression of their relationship and their love. And particularly it was a focus of of theirs. So
do you see? But when you look at other friends of Tommy and Rich who didn't have that much of a large family,
do I notice a difference in how they perceived it? I don't know that I cared enough to try to understand what their perceptions were. Mm-hmm. I knew there were a handful where I knew you just know who's naturally going to take a step back because they're either not fans of children in general or they don't want to disrupt their lives. But those close to Tommy and Rich, I don't think they questioned the choice, the process, the love that they were going to give those kids. Or anything like that. But I think deep down, sometimes you know who's going to stay and you know who's going to support you. From conversations, I think there's some disappointment in not seeing this person or that person for X amount of time. Mm-hmm. So, but I'd never seen a situation or heard of a situation where any of their friends was like, oh, that's not a good idea. Why are they doing that?
Right.
Or this seems odd. Mm-hmm.
We're coming towards the end, so Scott, do you have anything in your notes that you haven't talked about?
Not necessarily. Actually, I was just sitting here thinking though that like the last boyfriend I had was very pro-family, and I kind of started feeling like a couple months in that he pictured me as like the stay-at-home wife who's going to because he's very he's a showrunner and he's a actor and all this kind of stuff. He's got a big life, and the more we talk to him, I'm like, I don't see you doing anything to change your life, but you talk about this as if the kid's just gonna suddenly fall in and make its own place in there, and I'm like, it looks to me like you're thinking I'm gonna change and it's gonna, and no, like I remember that with Alex. I'm like, you're going to have to change your life, and he was adamant that he would not. It's like, no.
I get a lot of things wrong, but I do want to say how pleasurable for me the images of you in a French maid's outfit and like maybe like a feather duster, with the children at home with maybe some flour on your face. I like the image.
Well, the funny thing you probably forget is that even though I've never really wanted kids, I worked in a company that did early childhood development, and I worked with kids closely for 3 or 4 years. Like I know all about phonics and learning and early we created products for all this. Right. That's all I did for 3 or 4 years. So I was around all these little kids, but I think it'd be a great dad. It's just, do I really want to be? So
yeah.
Do you really want to stop like all of the work and everything in order to do that? Yeah.
Right.
Okay, guys, thank you so much. It's been such a lovely and wonderful conversation. I wish you all continuing friendships.
And I'll just push Jan out of the way and say, due to the time of the year and all that I am every day blessed by the fact that Scott remains my best friend and my closest, and please be patient with me. Let's see if we can't make things good.
And vice versa. It's family. It's what you do.
line? Season. It's the
I could
season
pull it out.
finale.
I could pull it
We
out.
miss everybody.
Okay, that was Alexa,
Oh,
kicking in.
Alexa.
Hey, Alexa, shut up.
She's so crazy.
Yeah, she's crazy.
Jeez. That's it. That's it.
Thank you guys very much.
We'll be back in spring.
Yes.
Maybe a little surprise in the middle.
Oh, we didn't come up with a cliffhanger. Is
Are we
it
getting-
possible that we're pregnant again?
Someone's
Hint.
showing.
Hint. No.
It's Winterbud.
Thank you all very much for listening to the first season, and we can't wait to.
We'll be back,
come
and
to you.
while you're waiting for us, and maybe if you want to go back to earlier episodes, that would be great too. But I think the best way will be to keep in touch with us through our Facebook group. So if you go to Daddy Square on Facebook, you can see a linked Facebook group. I also will post a link to it on our episode page. Also, Alex and I have created a gift for you all. Don't forget about it. It's a mini magazine that with some quotes, links, and material from things that we went throughout the season. So just log on to daddysqr.com and download it. It's free and it's fun.
Happy Hanukkah, Merry Christmas, Happy Kwanzaa, Happy New Year. Did I miss any? I think that's it.
Bye, guys. See you next year.